Hello, and welcome to the Straight to the Source podcast. I'm Tanya Barr.
And I'm Lucy Allon, and we're looking forward to taking you straight to the source of the people driving the food and hospitality industry forward.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Unox Australia, leaders in innovation and kitchen technology.
Hi, I'm Lucy Allon, and welcome back to the Straight to the Source podcast. Today, I'm joined by Karena Armstrong, chef, restaurateur, and driving force behind the Salopian Inn in McLaren Vale, South Australia. Karena has turned the Salopian Inn into one of Australia's greatest regional dining destinations with heart, soul, and purpose. We've just had a great conversation around her food philosophy, the power of producer relationships, and cooking with integrity and purpose. I hope you enjoy it. Let's dive in. Well, Karena, welcome to the studio today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, I should also say welcome to the gorgeous little wasabi who's sitting in your lap as well.
It's easier to have her here.
It's really wonderful to chat with you today. I think, you know, Tanya and I have really long admired your achievements at the Salopian Inn, and we've also been lucky enough to work with you on a couple of crazy pop-ups in the middle of an onion packing facility showcasing Australian onions at Matolo Family Farms. And of course, you and I have worked together for many years. I don't know, I reckon it's close to 10 on the delicious...
it would be very close now.
Yeah, on the delicious Harvey Norman Produce Awards. So we'd love to chat today about the Salopian Inn, which is, you know, the heartbeat of what you do. And so I just thought for those listeners who may be with us today and not that familiar with the Salopian Inn, let's start with when you opened and what you set out to achieve when you opened those doors.
So Salopian Inn is located in McLaren Vale. So it's about 45 minutes south of Adelaide, which is the southernmost state in Australia. So we're a little bit regional. We're known as a wine region. And I'm actually from the area. I was born down that way from Adelaide, but moved away, went travelling, became a chef, and came back to South Australia to have my children. So I have 3 now very grown-up adult children. And so when I first opened those doors, I had literally lost all my confidence. I hadn't cooked for 7 years, and I did it at the time because I knew I always wanted to do it, but I was terrified of doing it. So when I opened the doors, look, I'd love to say I had a really clear plan, but I just didn't. I just sort of winged it.
So what made you want to open your own restaurant? I guess that's a big question because, you know, I think a lot of chefs have that desire, but don't necessarily know how to go about doing it. What drove you to want to open your own restaurant?
So the opportunity came up that Salopian, the business that was in it, was a beer brewing business, and it just wasn't working for them. And so the lease got offered to me. So when I walked into the building, I'd eaten there and I'd been there other iterations. But when I walked in there, and particularly the kitchen at that time was all boarded up. It wasn't an open kitchen. And I just and so many decisions I've made in my life, it was just on a feeling. And the instinct was that, I would really like to do this as much as it terrified me that I did want to do it. And I had an idea of what my food was, and I knew it wasn't, this was 12 years ago, it wasn't there's definitely chefs around Australia who have always done local eclectic food, but it wasn't as prominent as it is now. And I knew I wanted to do it, but I was very apprehensive about doing it because I'd never run a restaurant that was mine before. I'd run lots of other people's restaurants, but not mine.
So what did you set out to achieve with the Salopian? And you said you really wanted it to be, obviously you had this desire to run your own restaurant, for it to be really about region and provenance. Was that a clear picture in your mind, or was it just a gut instinct that you had to kind of explore and work out what that meant?
I mean, I've been very fortunate in the way I've been trained. And so to think of not cooking regional, seasonal produce, it's just not in my DNA. So it was always going to be that. And to sort of find the best producers, that was always going to be a big part of it as well. And I did very quickly find my feet and start to grow in some confidence. Once people came in and they started enjoying the food. It kind of went from there. But that underlying storytelling about producers and community, I always wanted a restaurant that was a reflection of the community it sat in. And, I'm very proud of what Salopian is today, because I think we do that. Like, it's eclectic, it's fun, it's casual, but it still offers a very quality experience. Where it is today is a natural progression of where I started. But where I started was not like this clear framework, but my training led me in a direction that was always going to happen.
Yeah. And that makes sense. Like you said, there wasn't really a roadmap for all of this back when you
No.
opened. It's a much clearer, I guess, picture that people understand and conform. So when you were starting out, what did local really mean to you? I mean, I think, there's been a lot of development in what that word means in terms of food. So how did you approach local? What did you aspire to kind of do first, and how did you tell that story on the menu?
Well, so I was super lucky in that we've got the Wollonga Farmers Markets just down the road from the Salopian. So I'd been going there with the kids as they were growing up anyway. So I had a really good connection to local producers. And so it was natural for me to go, I'll put these guys on my menu. And of course, once you open a restaurant, then a whole heap of other suppliers start coming in the door as well that perhaps aren't big enough to be at the farmers markets, or they're hyper seasonal, which happens as well. Like the scallops that come from Kangaroo Island, that's only 6 weeks a year, the wild dived ones. So there were other things that came through the door. And I think as well, I'm sure there is a producer network that goes, go and see her, she'll buy something. So that happened as well. So naturally, and then you build relationships with people as well. Like there's producers I've used from day one that I still use today.
And so how do you build those relationships? Like you said, people will come to you, which is wonderful. They seek you out. But then I know that you also do a lot of work finding out where producers are, who they are, what they're doing, and trying to support them through the restaurant. So what's the key to building those sort of long-term trusting relationships? They trust you and you trust them.
Well, with suppliers, it is essentially a financial transaction. Of course it is. So respectfully paying small suppliers on the terms they ask for. I hear a lot of unfortunate stories about chefs going, no, I'll put it off. And you just can't. That is the basic respect of that transaction, is that if they ask for 7-day terms, that's what you pay them on. So that's the baseline. Then, of course, is talking to them, and not just when it's bad. Like, chefs, we are great at letting someone know when we're not happy. Let your producers know when you are happy, because then they will keep building what they're doing, and it gives them confidence in what they're doing. And I think that's super important. Like, you can grow with your producers. Like, you can literally help them improve what they're doing, but also it improves what you're doing. Like, your food gets better because their produce is getting better. So, or different, or they do something new. And I think it's a wonderful journey to go on with someone. There is definitely a relationship with producers that they are just as passionate as chefs. And I always think they are just as important. Like, often the chef is seen as the star, but without the producers, we can't do what we do. We cannot. And I think they need a much louder voice at the table, literally and metaphorically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like we've talked about a lot in what we do in Straight to the Source, as well as through the Delicious Produce Awards, they are, the invisible heroes of the industry. And without them, our restaurants really lose a whole dynamic that is all about that storytelling and having those relationships. You're able to tell their story like authentically and like really from the heart, because you've been through all the ups and downs of their business. They know the ups and downs of your business, and you're in sync in working out all those kind of little hurdles along that business relationship, and they become friendships. I know that you've got many friendships with producers, which then becomes really enriching. And then in recent years, you've established your own kitchen garden. So tell us about that.
So we have the kitchen garden. We've had it for 10 years. It was originally at the family home. And it was, started out as this small plot that we grew some watermelon radishes. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And our old family home was 2 acres. And by the end of it, was definitely a 3/4 of an acre garden of fruit trees and
You're like
fully
encroaching
irrigated.
on the home.
Oh, it was everywhere. Like it was everywhere. Even when we were replanting like the ornamental gardens, they were all Australian native edibles. And yeah, I just snuck them in. But anyway, and then we sold that family home, and the opportunity came to put the garden at Salopian, which has always been the dream. And so I pushed it, and we made it into a reality. I've got great business partners that see the benefit of doing it, because it's not like it's a lot of money. Like kitchen gardens, they're a very expensive undertaking done properly. They're a really beautiful thing, but they are certainly not something you do for a financial gain. Let's just say that. But in terms of what it's done for me personally, it's huge. Having it at the restaurant, I feel very connected to it. And also in terms of creativity, it's just wonderful. Like, you know, you've got I walked out of the restaurant before to come and do this, and there's just like mountains of chamomile, and I'm like, why? Like, let's do a fresh tea, let's do a garden tea at the end of your meal, let's do chamomile sorbets. And it's just this creativity that comes from having it that close. But
Yeah.
then, you know, I also know I had a bit of Michael, the dairyman from Barossa. I've got some of his buttermilk, so it's like, well, what can we use from our story, our garden, with his buttermilk? Or, you know, how can I make Tom from Nomad, how can I add my herbs or something to his chicken or hogget or whatever we're using? But it just feels a really respectful way to add into other produce we buy as well. Like
Yeah.
and then what the customer gets on the plate is just bursting. Like it's just so fresh. And, you know, you'll hear customers, this is a bit I really love. They're like, they'll be outside after their meal and looking, they're like, oh, I had that and I had that and I had that. And it's this real connection that's not overtly spoken about. Like we don't, you know, hang on about it the minute you come in the door, but people have this experience of like, what was that? Oh, that's Chinese celery. And then they get to see it outside and they see how plentiful it is. And they're like, oh, I might try and grow that. And then inevitably we get lots of questions about, well, how did you do it? What's your soil? How are you doing it? And we're really big on sharing that information. We give garden tours now. There's no cost. Yeah. So it's about sharing information as well.
Isn't that
Yeah.
wonderful? You took the words out of my mouth. It's all about that connection back to the soil
Yeah.
and back to like what is really the kind of whole creative heartbeat of what chefs do, you know, handling seasonal produce that's in abundance, produce that tells a story and tells a story of place, not just of flavor, but of place as well. And I can imagine that from a creative process perspective, being able to have the freedom to you know, just grab a handful of something out of the garden and, like you said, work out what it will pair with that's come from other local producers must be incredibly exciting. And I guess just give a lift to each different day on how you can elevate the menu and then have those conversations with your customers. And I suppose that leads me to this big topic that everyone, you know, the buzzword of the industry, it has been for a few years, it's only going to grow, but sustainability and how, you know, we connect this story of place and provenance back to also being able to operate more sustainably. And I know we've had many conversations about how important that is. So what I wanted to ask you was, what does sustainability mean to you? Because I think people have such broad interpretations of it.
Yeah, look, sustainability to me is, of course, environmental sustainability. So the future of our planet, it is global warming. It is looking at what we eat, how we eat, and then how we use or discard the waste from that process. But to me as well, sustainability is the human inputs into that process. So it's my energy creating it. It's how the produce got to me. So that human element of bringing the produce to me. So what does that person's experience of growing the chicken, or what does that look like? Because that needs to be sustainable, as does the amount they pay. And then at a sort of a smaller level within Salopian, payroll, how does that look? How are my staff paid? How are they looked after? does it feel sustainable for them, for their family life, for their work life, for their growth, all those things. And we've got hospitality professionals, and we've got people that, do it as a casual job. So it's encompassing all of that and then trying to have a business out of that is also sustainable. So to me, there's economic sustainability, there's environmental, and then there's the human. And I actually think the human is the one that needs to be talked about most, because if that's done, I feel like the others will fall into place.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think a big part of what isn't talked about is, a lot of people have rose tinted glasses on when they think about sustainability and, how it could be achieved. And you mentioned earlier, like building those relationships is ultimately about having a trusting financial arrangement, knowing that you can trust each other to honor that. And that is really important, because you can't have sustainability without a strong financial foundation. But then that's all intertwined with then using seasonal produce to reduce costs, minimizing waste to save money, and not, throw literally money into the bin. And so how do you balance the challenges of a busy, really high-end kitchen? I mean, the food that you're producing is of the utmost quality. How do you balance all of that? What are the things that you focus on day to day to ensure that you're achieving sort of a sustainable business day in, day out?
That's a great question, because there's a lot. And I think it's probably a reflection of my mind all the time, is just going. And you really have to look at every little thing you're doing. And I think that's, having that framework that you're like, okay, our business is sustainable. What does that mean to us? And we've defined that internally, and that is the people, the environment, and the economic. It all has to be sustainable for it to work. So, when we look at throwing something out, right, why are we throwing it out? Why is it going in the bin? We still have bins. I haven't reached Douglas McMaster level. I would love to, where there's no bin. We have, but it's that constant question asking. And it's amazing that when it's the culture of the business and that you talk about it, solutions come. So one of the most random ones we've had recently is like, you zest a lemon, you juice it, and then you've just got that skin left. So now we dry them, and they're our firelighters. And you light them, and they go up. It's crazy. You get them nice and dry, and they go up. And not only do you get a firelighter that's got no toxic chemicals, you haven't had to buy it in, you haven't had to throw it out, but it smells like lemon.
I was about to say, you've got the aroma as well.
It's this beautiful burnt lemon. So, we're always looking, like we char leftover citrus and make vinegars. We, everything can be turned into a miso. I strongly believe that. And you get this beautiful umami. Like, we look at how we treat any beef that comes in. And beef's been really contentious at Salopian, and we've discussed it a lot as to whether we keep having it. I've been working a bit with Sea Forest, the guys down in Tasmania who are doing the seaweed fed beef, and our biggest problem at the moment is getting a South Australian producer to do it, and to come on board with us and provide us with beef. But we really looked at, okay, if we are going to have beef, it's only going to be grass fed, it's only going to be local, and 100% grass fed. And then as a kitchen, we looked at how to use all the trim, and now we make our own beef lard. We have zero waste from our beef anymore. None.
Wow.
Any
incredible.
Industrial compost that leaves Salopian goes to Jeffrey's Soil. So Jeffrey's are a big South Australian business. They turn it into compost, but they provide the compost for our gardens. So it's this beautiful circular economy. And of course, it might not be our compost that comes back, but we have this relationship with them, this circular economy. We do it with our deep frying oil. That goes off and away to the farms where the canola is grown, single origin, non-GMO. The oil goes back and they use it as biodiesel. Like, there's so many things we do so mindfully and think about it, like, why are we using this business? We changed egg supplier recently because we could get a business that's more easily identified with who we are. So Feather and Pecker, they They are only outdoors. There is no shed where they might be able to get out. There's none of that. So, as close as those relationships can be with suppliers, I think it's really important sometimes to also question if a supplier perhaps or a producer you've worked with is still a good fit for you. Like, you do have to keep examining the relationship and see if they'll move with you, because quite often they don't realise that you need something else and they will move with you. So it's that communication.
Yeah. And that's so wonderful, because all of those intentional sort of processes and questions and conversations with your producers, with your team, are what are progressing all of those really productive, positive conversations forward. And if you can, get one of your local beef suppliers using sea forest, then what a great progression that's been achieved for everybody.
The sea forest thing will be a game changer. And getting them online with our dairy producer and our beef producer is one of our big goals.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And so I love that all of this is really what drives your creative process, what is really, your mission and vision for the restaurant. That's coming across so clearly. Do you think diners are becoming much more conscious and demanding of this approach towards more sustainable businesses? And do you think they are beginning to spend their money based on that? Are you seeing that trend happening, or what do you think is engaging customers on that basis?
Definitely. So we have customers that are referred from the Wollonga Farmers Markets is one of the best advertising, because it's all there. So if someone comes from interstate or overseas and they have, say, the venison there, the wild venison or something that's there, or the scallops that go over there, and they're perhaps travelling, they'll say, no, you can go and eat them at Salopian Inn. You don't need to buy some. They're on the menu down the road. So there's always that. But customers are far more discretionary with their spending at the moment, and I think people want to feel good about how they spend and also how they indulge. Like, people are really starting to feel a sense of, as they should, a sense of responsibility for what's happening with the planet. And the more we talk to people about what we're trying to do, it's really, really appreciated. And I think people do like knowing, but they also like leaving the restaurant having a great time. Trust me, there's still lots of fun and it still tastes delicious, but like, there's this sense of that it was beyond themselves, and that even though they ate and it's still quite hedonistic in that sense, that they didn't step too heavily on the planet to do it.
Yeah, it's that feel-good
factor. That's
huge. Like you said.
And we're about to get a whole lot of solar put on and some more batteries. And so although we'll still be connected to the grid, we certainly won't be using it. We won't need to. There's a long-term plan to turn the kitchen fully electric, which, it takes time and money. We're a small business. We're not part of a huge group. So all those really visual things, people, they understand and they can see all that solar and they can go, people know that it's not necessarily like a cost saving. It's a deliberate choice to behave differently.
Yep. Yep.
And people see it, and I found really appreciate it. And they love hearing the stories of our producers. That's the other one that blows me away, is that when we start telling them about, the mulberry lady down the road who brings them in for us every year, and like how much we love that. And one of our restaurant friends who's also an artist that brings in like buckets of chestnuts, and it's so nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
It all comes back to that connection, doesn't it? Making people feel really connected to what they're experiencing. And, when you add deliciousness in, which absolutely has to be there as a core principle, then, win. So beyond the restaurant, you're very well known as an incredible leader in the industry, really flying the flag for South Australia and everything that it has to offer, food, place, region. But especially in raising the profile of women in the industry. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about that and, your experience as a woman in the industry, building and growing your own business and, really showing leadership in that space.
Yeah.
What's your perspective on where we are right now and where things need to head to improve visibility for women in the food and hospitality industry?
Yeah, it's a loaded question, isn't it? Because it's not equal, and it just isn't. But I will say it is a whole lot better than it was 25 years ago. And I've also, I always went and worked for people that would see me as a chef and someone that just wanted to work hard and treat me with respect and kindness. And I have had like the most amazing training from a group of individuals, both male and female. And, incredible training and also very balanced training. So I wasn't always just put on larder or pastry. I learnt the whole lot. So from that point of view, but I think I also unconsciously sought out people that were going to give me a go. Like I certainly went for trials in big kitchens where I could see I wasn't going to be treated fairly based on my gender. It wasn't my skill. I know that. And then in my role now, it's really interesting that, I sought out owning my own restaurant, I think, so I could just not even worry about that. Like it's not even something that's considered at Salopian, male or female. You need to do your job at 100%. Like that's how we are. Like we really want to keep pushing it. What I will say is that you can only control what you do every day. And I have got a group of young men that work with me that are so respectful, so highly skilled, and do not see gender one bit. And that's probably my real pride in what I do this. In terms of with Tasting Australia, when I was the festival director there, of course, I'd made, I think, really good inroads into the inclusion space of female talent within the festival lineup. Also working with Mayira Haral on that creative team, we were at 50-50 for a festival, and that is unheard of. I would invite anyone listening to this to have a look at festivals around the world, and the gender balance is not there. And, I spend a lot of time professionally with other women who are at similar experience, have their own business, and I really enjoy that because you have someone to talk to. Having said that, I've also got amazing male friends in the industry who are so supportive and do not see gender. It's definitely changing. I think it could still go a long way. And my thing is now, like, I will have young girls coming to work with me at Salopian because they see me as a role model, and I take that. That's such an honour. Like, that's so nice that they feel like they can come and work with me and get a fair go.
Yeah.
6 weeks into it, they might think, oh, my God, she's tough. But that's okay. That's okay. But I also, I think you have to see it to be it. And that's what I think. There is so many amazing female chefs. I mean, there's lots of food bloggers and lots of recipe writers and online content creators who are amazing cooks. But it's that chef that's running her own restaurant that's doing that I think that's how I see myself. And that's what the leadership I'd like to offer. And, I certainly still mentor quite a few of the staff that have worked for me over the years and have good relationships with them.
Yeah.
I'm also very lucky that people like Allon Tusker, I can have a great conversation with her still, and she's still very much a mentor for me.
Yeah.
So
such a pioneer in the industry for so many amazing things.
And, groups like Parabare, the where we go every year and have a women in food conference is incredible. I think the change I'd like to see is that, when my male counterparts are in a lineup for something or they get asked to do something and there's no female representation, the real change will come when they call it out. And I already know several of, my colleagues that just go, actually, how does this work? Have you, this is looking super blokey, and that, let's have some balance. Let's have some, whether that's gender or race, it's super important.
Yeah.
People need to see other people achieving.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you're right. Things are changing and people are much more aware
Yeah.
of these conversations. Some of the challenges I see that people are aware of it and they want to change, but they're not quite sure how to go about advocating for that change or pushing for that change. So I think what you just said, which is, you know, being aware of it, calling it out and asking people to be just a little bit more accountable for it is really good advice. I think also it would be great to see businesses, especially the larger groups, taking a bit more responsibility for it and providing specifically that leadership training to the people that are coming through their business and going into those leadership positions, because it does really come from that strong leadership stance.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. What I love is now what's celebrated is that you don't need to behave in those traditionally characterized male tendencies to be a good chef. So you don't need to be one of the boys. There are many female chefs and many male chefs that accept women being quite feminine in a kitchen, and that you don't need to be one of the boys to be included or accepted. I think that's huge. I think with the large groups, more mentoring of women just to be confident in what they do. Of course, do your job, make sure you're doing it properly. Absolutely. But, you know, it doesn't mean you have to go out drinking until 2 a.m. to fit in or whatever it is. Like maybe they want to, who knows? This conversation feels like a minefield. but the idea of, like, I thought when I was an apprentice, and perhaps it is, I'm speaking from experience, I felt like I had to be one of the boys. And I never was going to be. And my strength is actually it's being yourself. No one can be you, only you can. And now I am so absolutely blessed with really rich relationships of, you know, all genders, all persuasions, everything within cooking. And that's what I love about cooking, though, is that we are, and hospitality, like, we're really accepting. Like, if, you know, if someone's got a past that's perhaps, you know, society thinks is not so amazing, you know, if they work hard, they can be in the fold. You can be trans, you can be gay, you can be whatever you want, as long as you can do your job. And it's no different with gender. And I really think that has changed in my time, and I'm so glad it has. I'm really glad, like, you know, it's such a beautiful community we have, and I think it just needs to be leaned into just a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. Like you said, it's the freedom to just be yourself and make your own decisions and do what you want to do, not do what you feel you have to do. And I guess, you know, when you think about sustainability outside of individual businesses or groups, that's the biggest sustainability piece for the industry, because that is what is going to drive us forward, you know, with diversity and, you know, bringing a wide variety of different perspectives in, which is so important to stay you know, ahead of the curve and stay relevant. So that's, it is really exciting that things are changing. So what's next? What's next for you and the Salopian Inn? Any plans that you can share with us?
So Salopian at the moment, as I said, we're about to go off grid. Then we're going to try and build some water tank fences that will irrigate our garden. That one's a little bit tricky, but we'll get there. And we want to look at water management. We've got a huge roof catchment area. There is also plans to finally renovate the kitchen at Salopian, increase our seating a little bit for our summer time, and put in a private dining room. So all long-term goals that we will finally get to. But for Salopian, it'll be finally to write a book. I've finished up with Tasting Australia, so I've got a bit of headspace there, and to finally write the book of the Salopian. So when you come to Salopian, if you want to, our degustation style menu is actually called a feed me, because it's not as fancy as a deck. But I'd like to write a book that is all about the feed me, and it's quite interwoven, and it's quite about using everything, and just a really good book that's simple cooking, but it's how to use everything.
Oh, wow.
And how to buy beautiful produce, but then not let any of it go to waste and make it all, like, amazing. And then, of course, telling our story in a glass as well. Alex, my business partner, does an amazing job with the wine list, but also cocktails. So a little bit of both definitely doing that. And we're doing lots of events now at Salopian. This happened quite accidentally, but we've all decided we quite like doing it. So we'll keep popping up around the place and making people's special moments extra special. We do lots of bespoke work there, which is a lot of fun.
Oh.
Like onions and sheds and ice cream. So we do that.
Unusual places, unusual ingredients, unusual dishes.
Yeah, that's us.
Well, you should be so proud of what you have achieved at the Salopian Inn, and it sounds like there's many more exciting things to come. But it is such a place of where it is and what it is, and the heart and soul of you, and I think that really comes across in it. So if anyone listening hasn't been and is heading to South Australia, it has to absolutely be on your hit list of where to dine. So make sure you make time for that. Before we wrap up, I thought we'd have a little bit of fun with a little quick fire Q&A. I'm just going to fire questions at you. You could just answer them however you want. You ready?
Okay. Yes, I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do it.
What's one dish or ingredient you absolutely love that's on the Salopian Inn menu right now?
Dumplings. Always the dumplings. They're prawn and carp at the moment. I love them. I love rolling them. I love eating them.
I love that you use carp as well. That's a whole nother conversation. But anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
On to the next one. What's your favourite place to eat?
Oh, that's like choosing one of my children. That's actually very hard. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out of state and say the Lankan Filling Station in Darlinghurst.
Okay.
So when I come to Sydney, it's a remarkable restaurant.
Yeah, it is. I'm lucky enough for it to be quite close to me. If you could get on a plane tomorrow and go and eat anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Oh, my gosh. Oh, this one is so hard. I've just had, do you know what? I can't remember the name of it. It's in Rome near the Pantheon Armando. It's like I got sent there. When I went to Rome, everyone said you have to go there. And then I ended up going 3 times and I was only there for a week. It is the most extraordinary meal ever.
Well, if you remember the name of it, let us know and we'll pop it into the show notes.
Well, it's Armando. I think it's Armando. I'd have to have a look on my phone.
Okay.
But it's like I think it was 12 euros for a pasta.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I sat and I ate, and the table next to me was a grandfather and a grandson who were locals who were out for lunch together. And it was quintessentially Italian, and the tiramisu was like eating a cloud. It was so good.
And they're always the recommendations people want, because when you eat locally, when you're traveling, they're always the best experiences. So you know what's going to happen now is you're going to get lots of DMs of people going, what was that place you just talked about? So if you remember it, we'll put it in the show notes. So everybody, you can head to the show notes to find out. And finally, who inspires you? Who is somebody that is there one person or one thing that you look to or that inspires you when you need that, like that little boost of energy or motivation?
Oh, there's actually quite a few people. I think about Alla Wolf-Tasker a lot. She's had that restaurant for maybe 40 years and she's at the top of her game. And if that's not tenacity or professionalism, I don't know what is. Like, it's like respect. It's incredible.
Yeah.
On a personal level, I don't know. My mum's pretty awesome. She's very gentle. She's strong and she's kind. So if I ever feel myself going off course, I'm like, it's a combination of those two.
Oh, well, that's wonderful, isn't it? 2 incredible women, obviously, that are very much your anchor and your the people that you look to for when you need that boost of something. So that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's always such a wonderful conversation when we talk to you, and we always learn so much. But it's been wonderful to hear what's next for the Salopian Inn, and very much look forward to coming down and trying it out next time we're in South Australia. So for anyone listening, we'll pop some links into the show notes of where you can find Karena and the Salopian Inn, where you can find out about this restaurant in Rome. But is there anything else you wanted to add before we sign off? Otherwise, I'll wrap it up and let you get back to your day.
I think it's quite, we've had an amazing conversation around sustainability and, at a restaurant level. And, I'm in a business partnership and we're trying to do the best we can. But, you know, at some level, our government needs to love hospitality a little bit more, a lot more actually. And, you know, we are the backbone of culture, you know, the arts, food, you know, that's who we are as a people. And, you know, how we present ourselves on a plate says a lot about who we are culturally. And that needs to be sustainable. So we have some identity and we keep our identity and it doesn't become a commodity. And that's probably the scariest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, we need to all really appreciate more how those conversations around a table are so uniting and so inclusive. And yeah, if we can all get behind that, what a wonderful future we have.
So I think that's probably it, really.
Oh, it's amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to join us, and look forward to catching up when either you're in Sydney or we're in South Australia next.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening in. We hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we did.
And a special thanks to Unox Australia for their support. If you want to learn more, head to their website.